Welcome to today's Explainer. We are about to take an incredible dive into a living, breathing ecosystem of knowledge that has thrived for tens of thousands of years. We're exploring the culture and philosophy of Aboriginal Australians, which is widely recognized as one of the oldest, continuous living cultures in the entire world. Get ready because we're going to completely rethink how we view time, art, maps, and even medicine. Okay, let's just look at this massive number right off the bat. 60,000. That is the absolute minimum number of years Aboriginal Australian cultures have continuously existed. I mean, just wrap your head around that for a second. We are talking about a civilization that has carefully passed down laws, complex ecological knowledge, and deep spiritual traditions through literal ice ages, massive geological shifts, and countless generations, all without using a traditional written language. Now, with that kind of mind-boggling longevity, it's super easy to accidentally lump everything together and view Aboriginal Australian culture as just one big, monolithic thing. But actually, before European colonization, there were an estimated 600 distinct groups or nations across the continent. We're talking about over 250 completely different languages. So a person living up in the tropical north, like the Yolngu in Arnhem Land, has a completely different lifestyle, language, and set of traditions from the Warlpiri out in the arid central desert or the Aurora living on the coasts of Sydney. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll unpack a concept called the everyone. Then, we'll decode their stories and living law, check out art and music as actual spiritual technology, explore holistic medicine, and wrap up by looking at their modern resilience today. All right, let's jump straight into part one, understanding the everyone, and how we need to completely shift our paradigm of time. To really get this, we kind of have to leave our Western clocks at the door. Notice the stark contrast here. On the left, you've got our standard Western view, right? Time is a straight line, the past is way behind us, the present is right this second, and the future is somewhere up ahead. But on the right, you have the Aboriginal worldview. It's grounded in the dreaming, or what anthropologist W.E.H. Stanner famously called the everyone. In this paradigm, time is a simultaneous, living circle. The era of creation didn't just happen millions of years ago and then stop. It's a recurring, ongoing thing. Past, present, and future are all coexisting all at once. So the crucial takeaway is that the dreaming is absolutely not some dusty old myth from the distant past. It's an active spiritual ecology. Ancestral spirits literally left their essence in the landscape, in the rocks, the rivers, the trees. And because of that, creation is a continuous, present-day act. When ceremonies and songs are performed at sacred sites today, it's not some historical reenactment. They are literally waking up the spirits and refreshing the life force of the land right now, keeping the entire universe in balance. Moving right along to Section 2, Stories, Maps, and Living Law. Let's look at how deep history acts as memory hooks. We're going to reframe what we might mistakenly call myths into what they truly are, survival guides. Take the famous story of Tiddalik the frog. So Tiddalik was this giant frog who woke up with an insatiable thirst and greedily drank up all the fresh water in the entire world. Every creek, every river, just bone dry. The environment started dying off. The other animals realized, hey, we have to make him laugh if we want that water back. Finally, this playful eel does a dance so funny that Tiddalik bursts out laughing, and all the water rushes back out, restoring balance to the world. And there's the hidden genius, right? On the surface, it's a fun, entertaining story about a giant, greedy amphibian. But underneath, it encodes a strict law of sustainability. In a harsh, arid environment like much of Australia, hoarding resources is literally a death sentence for the community. So the story acts as this brilliant, unforgettable memory hook for kids to learn absolute vital laws of survival. And these narrative maps are laid out across the entire continent. You've got the rainbow serpent, a creator being whose massive body physically carved out the valleys and riverbeds, perfectly linking the story to the location of water. You have the Seven Sisters, tracking the Pleiades star cluster, which is literally a navigational guide connecting different language groups across thousands of miles. And stories like Alinga, the lizard man, whose stuck boomerang explains the exact physical shape of Uluru. These stories encode deep time memories. I mean, some of them even accurately describe sea level rises from the end of the last ice age. How incredible is that? Okay, Section 3, Spiritual Technology. This is where we look at art and sound as living maps. Think about it. Without a written language, how do you store all this massive amount of geographical and legal data? Well, you use an incredible synergy of visual and sonic maps. Art functions as the spatial view. It's your visual archive mapping out where things are and how the ancestral beings moved.
Music, on the flip side, is your temporal view. It provides the rhythm of creation that actually activates the spiritual power of the land. Which brings us to the concept of songlines. Listen, a songline isn't just a catchy tune. It is a highly sophisticated musical map. Each verse describes the landscape exactly as you pass through it, the landmarks, the hidden water sources, the celestial markers. If you sing the correct sequence of verses, you can navigate thousands of miles across a deadly desert safely. If you know the song, you quite literally know the land. It is, for all intents and purposes, an oral GPS system. And their visual art works in a very similar layered way. You've definitely seen those gorgeous Aboriginal dot paintings, right? But did you know that that technique actually originated in part to camouflage restricted sacred information? A kid or an uninitiated outsider might just see a pretty abstract design of a journey, but an initiated elder looks at those exact same dots and reads a complex map, ecological data, and secret spiritual laws. The dots literally protect the knowledge from those who don't have the cultural authority to read it. It's brilliant. All right, let's jump into Section 4, Holistic Healing and Medicine, combining the science and spirit of bush medicine. You see, in this culture, you literally cannot separate the physical body from the land, the community, or the spirit. This holistic approach is championed by traditional healers, known as the Yankari down in Central Australia. They don't just put a band-aid on a physical ailment. They look at the whole person. If someone is dealing with severe grief or depression, a Yankari might identify that their spirit has actually become separated from their body, and they'll use tactile healing touch to return it. What's truly amazing is that today we are seeing this two-way healthcare model popping up, where traditional Yankari healers work right alongside Western doctors in modern hospitals to provide culturally safe complementary care. And their pharmacology is just incredibly practical and scientifically grounded. We're talking real bush medicine here. Tea tree was crushed up because it's a wildly powerful antiseptic. Eucalyptus was used for respiratory relief, and its bark was used for burns. Desert plants like Urmanka urmanka are these potent anti-inflammatories used for arthritis. And the soap tree? It's basically a pharmacy in a single plant, with infusions used to cure toothaches and sore throats. But here's the catch. You don't just grab a plant like it's a bottle of aspirin off a shelf. In this medical system, plants are viewed as your ancestral relatives. The very act of finding, gathering, and preparing the medicine is a deep spiritual ritual. It's an acknowledgement of a gift from the land, reinforcing that every single living thing out there is an active participant in keeping the community alive and well. Finally, let's look at Section 5, Modern Resilience, and how this culture is surviving and thriving today. The absolute biggest takeaway here is that this culture is not some relic of the past confined to a museum display. Despite the immense, frankly devastating trauma of European colonization, the massive loss of traditional lands, and tragic historical events like the stolen generations, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples maintain vibrant, constantly evolving cultures today. They are actively passing down the dreaming, revitalizing lost languages, fiercely protecting their intellectual property, and shaping modern society, politics, and the arts right now. So, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. If time isn't just a straight line where the past is forgotten and the future is just someone else's problem, if time is a continuous circle where creation is happening right this very second, how does that change the way you care for the world today? I mean, adopting even a fraction of that every-when perspective might completely shift our own responsibilities to our communities and our planet. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.